Hey there, what you doing?
Oh, I'm giving Gray her morning brush down attention. Her hair's almost all out, but still hair.
Wow.
But mostly because she likes it. She waits for it in the mornings now. Now that I have time, I'm not rushing off to the school. You know, I got time to, you know, she'll hide for the heat of the day.
Yeah.
You know, in some spot, but in the morning it's not too hot yet. So, Tuxie, come here, bud. What about you? Come here. Come here. Come on.
The dog,
Come here.
cat
Come here. A little closer.
will actually come when you call it.
He's not an it. Hey, bud. He talks to me, too. Good boy. Good boy.
See 15, 20 vapor trails, and there were none where there was not.
So we have an exciting opportunity today to be on a Zoom call with Robert Llewellyn from Fully Charged, and for that we're in the studio. Don's just a little excited. First off, he's been watching Robert for forever on Fully Charged and a patron, and yeah, and then he missed seeing him in Texas when they went to Fully Charged Live. So this is very exciting for both of us, but particularly for Don. We love Robert.
Slight anger issues with her husband after many years. He's late, and I'm driving along, happy as Larry, nothing wrong. And then the calls start. Why aren't you here? Because I'm 30 minutes late.
That's right. Yeah. No.
And you're just driving up a road. There's no kind of barrier or sea in the way. We're used to I need an ocean
right.
to know that the time's different.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, great stuff. All right.
I mean, before we get started, I mean, we still have 4 minutes before the top of the hour. It's going on 10 years now you've been doing Fully Charged?
Yes. I think it's a hugely risky time for car companies. I mean,
right.
I think a lot of them in Europe are in really serious trouble because they haven't sold any cars for months, and they've got
right.
massive factories and huge workforces and massive costs. You know, it's really challenging.
Yeah, Robert, Don Miller, and my lovely wife Mary Ann spoke to you. It's wonderful to talk to you again. Along those same lines, you said there were over 20 cars you just listed that are available now or shortly in the UK. That's a lot to choose from, but manufacturers seem to be set on the concept that we want the electric version of the car to be a choice versus the gasoline version of the car. And I've watched several YouTubes or car reviews that the journalist is actually excited that the electric car drives just exactly like the gasoline car. And yet you've just said when you get into Tesla, it blows you away because it's like no other car you've ever driven. So now with all the manufacturers lining up their platforms, the Audi's going to drive like the Volkswagen's going to drive like the Skoda. I mean, I don't know all the different ones, but all these different mixtures of cars, when you net them down, they're electric, and a lot of the things that varied from one manufacturer to another seem to be going away. So I guess are they oblivious to this? Are this protecting their gasoline cars? What's the logic here?
Yeah, I mean, it's an impossible question I've asked, you know.
Okay.
Some quite, like, for instance, very high-ranking people at Volkswagen, I've asked them that, and you can just see that they are in deep discomfort. Because you see that if you make the Volkswagen ID3 accelerate faster, have a greater top speed, have a longer lifespan than the Volkswagen Golf, you know, with the beefy, the Golf R, the racing, the butch, crazy sort. If you make an electric one that's faster than that, is that difficult for you? And I felt so bad, because when you make Germans uncomfortable, they're so polite. They don't like it. They don't want to be made uncomfortable. But they clearly are in an absolute cleft stick. So all the traditional manufacturers So anyway, you know, that's the massive advantage Tesla has, obviously, but people like Rivian, people like
Right.
Chinese manufacturers, they don't have that legacy. They don't have to worry about that. Whereas all the traditional brands of everyone you've ever heard of, every car company you've ever heard of, have huge factories that make diesel engines or make petrol engines that employ tens of thousands of people around the world. How do they convert that? You know, it's not that they could not do it, but the you know, inertia behind that is incredibly difficult. So they are, like, when you go around I went around the Renault factory in just outside Paris, where they make the Renault Zoe, and it's made on the same production line as their petrol cars.
Mm-hmm.
And when they first started making it, it would be like 22 petrol cars, and then there's one electric Zoe. Well, then we went again last year, and there's now 2 petrol cars, 1 Zoe. So they're making so many more. They're coming off that, and they're coming off that. It's a huge factory. They're coming off that production line about one every 1.5 minutes. There's a car coming up, and you just see all these Zoes coming off, and they're very popular cars, particularly in France. So there is a way of managing it, and they're desperately trying to do it. But they still sell far more diesel and petrol cars than they do electric ones. Renault do, as do all the other manufacturers. You know, so it is a really difficult transition, and how they then do that transition. They know they've got to. They all know they've got to, but they've all got the brakes on as hard as they can to slow it down as much as it can. And the changes that are happening. So I think the key change that's happening with Volkswagen in particular is how they sell their new cars in showrooms. So always up to now, and we've had I think I've talked about this on a recent episode, but my sister was where I became very aware of this. She'd driven a Volkswagen E-Up a few years ago when I had one here, and she loved it and went into a showroom and asked to buy it, and they would not. They just told her it was rubbish and it didn't work. This is a Volkswagen salesperson was rubbishing their own brand. And electric cars don't work. You want a diesel; they're much cleaner.
Yeah,
all
God.
those things. You know.
Yeah.
This was 5 or 6 years ago. But what's happening now is if you want an ID3, you order it online directly with Volkswagen. You then go to a dealership, which is an independent company, and you pick up your car there because they're an agent for the ID3. They don't do they do after sales service, they do all that stuff, but they don't do the negotiating. You don't pay them.
Right.
They are literally an agent that then delivers the car to you, makes sure you understand how to use it, blah blah blah. Which is a really clever way of getting around that block where there'll be someone. You know, I often wonder, you know, who works at you know, who would want to get a job at a car showroom? Probably someone who's into cars, and at the moment, if you're into cars, you're probably into internal combustion engines that go vroom, you know.
Right.
And then there's some weird guy like me walks in who wants an electric one. I mean, what's wrong with him? That's the attitude you get. It's not universal, because there are brilliant exceptions, you know, but so they have numerous hurdles to overcome, the traditional manufacturers.
Right.
Not just making them, and not making them well. And I think always, and I think that proof is in the you know, the uptake of it, is when they build an electric car from the ground up. So the Leaf and the Zoe, really the 2 most popular cars around the world, other than Tesla, in terms of numbers. And they're both built and designed as electric cars. They were never petrol cars that have been converted or diesel that have been converted. And on Monday, a car gets delivered here that I think will be very successful. That's the Vauxhall E-Corsa. So it's a Peugeot brand, and Peugeot are really another French company. I mean, Vauxhall is an old English brand, but it's been owned by General Motors and Peugeot, and I think a few other people. And I grew up with Vauxhalls. My father's cars were always Vauxhalls. You wouldn't have anything else.
Wow.
But the E-Corsa is a really nice little, you know, like a Volkswagen Golf, that size car. But there is a petrol version and there's a diesel version. There's a plug-in hybrid version. So it's a kind of compromised car. You know, I think it's pretty good. I think they've done a pretty good job with it. But it's always that, you know, that thing. If you're trying to work out how to fit a battery where you normally have a gas tank or where you normally have a gearbox, you're sort of struggling a bit. Whereas if you just start with a blank canvas, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I don't know. It's been a while ago. I said that I was going to look at how our energy usage, our electricity usage, had decreased during the stay-at-home shut down, and I wanted to compare a whole month, and from the not using the data from the bill, but a data from a whole home energy monitor that I've had for several years, Nerio. I never pronounced it right. Anyway, I have done that, and I've went back and I've compared April 2019, which was a normal. Johnny was in school. Marianne was driving the Model X every day to and from Raleigh a couple times, doing her normal shopping trips and stuff. Compared to this year, April 2020, and of basically poor Ruby, other than just a couple little trips to catch a few Pokestops or something, Ruby never left home. So we were charging Ruby like maybe once a week or twice a week, but we were only charging her like 70% or something like that. So just replacing the mileage the Phantom Dream had used up. So I'm going to give you the numbers here. I'm going to have you look down at my spreadsheet. So basically, I was surprised that the peak hours, which is what you would have expected to happen. Marianne was home, Johnny was home, and I was home. The peak hours in April 2020 went up. We used 193 kilowatt hours in April 2020 compared to 116 kilowatt hours on peak in 2019. Similar increase in shoulder, 173 kilowatt hours compared to 101. So there was a overall increase, but the difference turns out, of course, be exactly what we had thought. The off-peak in 2020, April 2020, was only 1,129 kilowatt hours compared to 2,054. So that's only, that's only like 550 kilowatt hours less. And I'm a little surprised with that. That's the number that sort of stood out. So our average kilowatt hours for 2020 was 50 kilowatt hours per day, and it was 68 kilowatt hours per day average. So that implies that in April 2019, we were using approximately 18 kilowatt hours for Ruby that we, because we were away from home driving the car or whatever. Well, 18 kilowatt hours at 3 miles per kilowatt hour, just a rule of thumb, that's really not that much. That's only, 54? I think that's right. 54 miles a day, and we drove over 100 miles a day. So, we were still using some. So just to give you some other ways to look at, maybe slice the data, the monthly kilowatt hours for the whole year of was basically averaged 2,332. Where in April we were only 1,449. I think I've got that right. And in May of 2019 we did 1,857, and in May of this year, so a little bit further, some more numbers. May of this year we did 1,355. So again, about 500 kilowatt hours, or a half a megawatt less energy use. And again, 500 times let's say 3 miles per kilowatt hour, that's 1,500 miles at least. So that's probably pretty accurate.
Well, these guys, nighttime, midnight, were well behaved during the Zoom session. I only had to threaten with the water bottle one time, and that was just so they wouldn't accidentally knock over one of my lights. Nighttime. Hi, sweetie pea. A couple of project updates. Don and I are still talking about putting a bench over here on the side, not out here at the end, but on the side. And I ordered a cushion today that's 45 by 18. It's a bench or a swing cushion. No bumps. We don't want stuff to collect where it's pulled. So it's very flat, kind of a cushion. And maybe if the weather's nicer this week, we'll work on that. But that is still in the discussion phases. We also spent some time today trying to figure out what, if any, color stain. It's more complicated than you think, and I think we decided that we're going to go to Home Depot. They have it. Behr has a stone hedge and a Wedgwood color. I think Wedgwood's too blue, but the stone hedge might work. We're going to get a sample, stain a piece of scrap, and try to decide. I did try using those online tools, and I'll put up a picture showing you one of the online tools, but it really wasn't the stain colors, and I picked these really dark colors, and then they were really bright. It was just sort of like, it's kind of weird. We wouldn't be opposed to repainting the back door, but it's not a necessity. We did several years ago repaint the garage door and put that cling onto the piece of glass for a little bit of privacy, and just because I really thought it was pretty. Highly recommend these, by the way. You can kind of see it. These are great as holding up well in the sunlight too. It is on the outside of the glass, not the inside. I really like it. So Don is wants to make the wires look better. I told him the wires look fine, and what was he gonna do, and it's perfectly functional and suiting to me, but he says, well, that's just velcroed up there, right? It just came off the Velcro.
Yeah, they got to be taken care of.
Okay, so he said he's gonna tinker with the wires. I'm sure it will look better, no doubt, if you fuss with that.
Yeah, but it's only gonna take a few minutes.
Yep. So that's what he's working on. It's nice and cool out here. He's got his AC on 78. You can feel the coolness. The garage wasn't that horrible hot inside here to begin with.
Nope.
And I'm thinking I might start the ISS Lego kit today. I want to put the ISS up on top of the curio shelf, which will technically be just above the rocket where it is on the stand.
Yep.
So like it's on its way from the launch pad to the International Space Station. So that kit's been waiting. Well, it'll save you me going out and buying another kit right away.
That's reverse for me.
It'll save you a week.
That's right.
At least a week.
That's right.
Okay. Yay! I'm out in Ruby for a few minutes. Woohoo! Gotta go spin the Pokestop. I remember when this bridge was so narrow you could barely cross paths with another car going over it. That bridge is such a big improvement, both from a comfort of driving and from a safety perspective. Holy moly! I can't even park in my normal spot. There's no room on the end over here. Now this is a record number of cars on any other day during the pandemic. Where am I supposed to park? Maybe there's room for me in front of this Mustang, because the parking here does go, yeah, all the way around the curve here. Phew! Here, I'll pull up one more. I can still reach the Pokemon stuff from this location. Wow. Something serious is going on, because that's a police car, 2 ambulances, and 2 fire trucks in about 10 minutes worth of time. It's like they keep on sending more. So I am going to start on the International Space Station Lego kit. It's kit number 21321, 16 plus 864 pieces, which makes it about the same number of pieces as the rocket launcher I just put together. And, you know, I'm going to do a bag or 2 or 3 or whatever I feel like doing before I've got to cook dinner. And just have fun with it. I think this one's going to be pretty repetitive, but I hope it proves me wrong. So there are 9 bags and one huge instruction book. And look at all those specialty solar panel parts. That's pretty cool. And I love these kits that the box is like a real box, that it folds in and is meant to be opened and reclosed without flaps on the end of the box. I really like this style when Lego does this. So this book has some history and background on ISS, and says that the station has maintained continuous human presence in space since November of 2000. So November of 2020 makes 20 years of continuous human presence in space. That's great. So this is anniversary, and you can still get this one in the Lego store. And I also talked about doing a 10-year anniversary special review of all of the Lego Ideas and Cuusoo, C-U-U-S-O-O kits. This one, I guess, originally didn't get built, but they went back and decided that this was one that they did want to go ahead and do. So that's great. So there's other stuff up here in the front, and it's in all the languages, and it shows the other Lego you know, some other Ideas and Cuusoo kits here. I thought it was great. They had this Curiosity Rover one. This kit goes for several $100s on eBay. They basically made none of them, and everybody wanted it. I looked at, you can get the building instructions for every Lego kit pretty much ever online for free. But if there are specialty parts, you know, and trying to source them individually can be really more expensive than the original kit for sure. The Curiosity Rover doesn't look like it has a lot of special pieces. I was looking at that on Rebrickable. So that's a possibility. At the beginning here, it's giving us a summary of what parts of this thing the bag builds. So the first thing is the space shuttle. Then it looks like the stand that this thing will set on, maybe. Or, yeah, the stand that it will set on. So when I set it up on top of the curio cabinet, there is a stand. And then it starts building the modules, the sections of it. And goes on at the closer to the end of adding. And I could have been wrong. Maybe there's only 6 bags, not 9. Of adding on the solar panels. So let's get started. So, bag 1 built the space shuttle. This is just a little tiny space shuttle that can actually dock at the scale of this ISS. There is another space shuttle kit at Walmart right now that you could go get, and then there's even one, even more detailed one than that you could also get. Of course, more detailed, more expensive. The one at Walmart's pretty reasonable if you wanted to build a sort of a regular size Lego shuttle. And then these other 3 pieces, it hasn't told me where they go yet. And I've never seen a figure so small, but there are, it gave me 3 little tiny astronauts. You can see relative to my finger size just how, you know, it's like 1.5 centimeters tall or something really small. I mentioned in yesterday's solar system Lego clip that there were these quick connect pins, and this kit is making use of those as well. They're up here, and what it is you're going to be able to take the ISS model off of the base really easily and put it back on the base really easily, and that's what those 4, I can just tell that's what those 4 pins are going to do. I am done building the base. You can see what it's going to look like, how the ISS is going to sit on it. Nothing complicated here. Those pins actually hold this support piece on, but again, I feel like the model's going to attach to this, and then basically to take the ISS apart or off of it, you'll just release the 4 pins. I did not know that this was part of the model, but you can see there was a specially printed International Space Station brick that's not a sticker. So that is way cool. I really like that. I did think that the space shuttle should have some identifying sticker on the sides of it here. There are no stickers in this kit, and I think the shuttle probably ought to have a sticker. But maybe since it's international, they were trying to keep it very non-country specific.
Well, there it is. I've rerouted the cables and dressed them up a little bit, put them inside that conduit, and rehung the I don't know, the sensor bar for the Wii, and put the Xbox Connect thing where it needs to be, and it's free to move. So I think I'm pretty happy now. I don't have all those wires dangling down.
Industrial seed oil.
Nacho. Woo. It must be hamburger night. Well, we had a really yummy dinner, and I decided one more bag tonight, bag 3, which is the main body of the space station. Alright, I've got the body built. It's just basically a long, solid cylinder. I'm not particularly familiar with the ISS architecture, so it's not super meaningful to me. I can see in bag 4 that we're going to add some amount of solar panels and other stuff to it. So, bag 4, which I'll probably work on tomorrow morning, is going to be adding onto this piece.